What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 80 of the Super Grapple Bros podcast about two brothers who are former WWE employees that like to watch and discuss both wrestling and video games. I am one of your brothers this week, Murpho, one of your hosts. D. Murpho unfortunately could not make it this week. We tried to make things work, but our schedules couldn't line up. We were hoping he was going to be able to come in later today on Sunday, which we normally do this on Saturdays. And it was looking like we were going to be able to do it, and then he couldn't do it, and unfortunately things got so chaotic for him this weekend that he wasn't even able to send over his thoughts on Elimination Chamber, but that's okay. Like, next episode he's around. If we want, we can do something where we get some quick takes from him into the intro. So this week, as you know, it is the Elimination 2019 review episode of the podcast. Going to be talking about the results and all that. A lot of stuff happened on TV this week in WWE. NXT Tapings happened. We'll get into a spoilery section about that. We'll let you skip ahead. We've got some fair amount of wrestling news, quite a few important releases, an important return coming up, an important rehiring coming up, lots of news. And then in video games, the reviews are in for Anthem. Reggie Fis-Aime, the president of Nintendo of America and gaming icon, has retired, and more news on Apex Legends. And then there's some stuff coming in about Fortnite and Overwatch as well. So let's go ahead and let's get right into it. But before I start talking about results, I want to say hello to Hugo Gonçalves, who is sitting in chat saying hello. You guys can also get involved in chat on the episode of the show by going to twitch.tv/L_Murpho. Join live. Get involved in the chat. We will try to read off your thoughts, your takes, your questions as we go through the episode. So let's start off with Elimination Chamber 2019, which I thought was a really good show. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it set the bar pretty good and high. Nice follow-up to the Royal Rumble. Well, I think we're on a good road to WrestleMania this year. D-Murph also really enjoyed it. If you want some genuine reactions from him, we did do reactions via my phone while we were at his house last week. We also had the disembodied voice of our buddy JJ. If you don't know who he is, if you remember back in NXT about a year or two ago, there's always this guy in the purple Macho Man shirt on cam. That was him. He actually went to Full Sail. Now he's back. But anyway, let's get into the show itself. We kick things off on the kickoff show with Buddy Murphy taking on Akira Tozawa. We all knew that Tozawa didn't have a chance in winning, that they were going to keep the championship on Buddy Murphy likely until WrestleMania. Buddy Murphy's just been killing it. He's been carrying the brand. Not so much that the brand really needs carrying. It's been having some really solid matches. But as you know, when cruiserweights throw down, especially at a pay-per-view, it's a good match. So it was really enjoyable, really entertaining. But of course, Tozawa just couldn't pull out the victory over Buddy Murphy in the end. And there we go. I don't think there really is much more to discuss about it other than it was, a cruiserweight championship match, which means it was really good, but unfortunately it was on the kickoff and thus didn't get as much prominence on the card as maybe it should have. Once we get to the main card, surprisingly, now the funny thing is that this was rumored to actually be the main event of the show, but I guess at the last minute they decided to swap it. I guess they weren't sure which Elimination Chamber match they wanted to start the show off with and which to finish with. And to be honest, when you see how each show ended and the performances, like it is like difficult to see like who should go first and who should go last. But we had the Elimination Chamber match to crown the first ever, quote unquote, because apparently there were women tag titles in the 80s, WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. And the Boston Hug Connection of Sasha Banks and Bayley defeated Tamina and Nia Jax, the Iconics, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, who are going now by Fire and Desire, Carmella and Naomi, and oh god, why am I blanking on the other two teams that are in the or the other one team that's in the match? I think that's everybody. We got Boston Hug Connection, the Iconics, Tamina and Nia Jax, Fire and Ice, Carmella and Naomi, and one other team that I am blanking on. Riot Squad, Ruby Riot, not Ruby Riot. Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan were in there as well. I thought that this was a good match. It wasn't like a mind-blowing match. I think that the Women's Elimination Chamber match last year was really, really good, if not possibly better. This match was still pretty solid. some pretty good spots up on top of the chamber. We had some pretty good moments. I'm upset the Iconics got taken out so early, but the fact that they played their role, they were perfectly, their way is like kind of conniving, scared chicken, S-word, you know what, heels. That kind of got their comeuppance the second Nia Jackson-Tamina came out. And I'm kind of glad that Nia Jackson-Tamina not only didn't win, but that they weren't the last two. I actually think that in this match, it was really cool to see the Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville actually get some moments to shine, and we're the last team here. It helps establish them as a team, hopefully going forward. Hopefully they will be contenders maybe for the tag championships going forward. I think Sonya Deville is really good. I think she's going to develop into something pretty great, especially if she can work on her promo skills or get more mic time, because she really doesn't get to talk too much on the mic. And Mandy Rose, she's got a lot of charisma, and she's a pretty good, solid worker as well. So pretty good. I like the fact that they decided to not break them up and bring them back together into a tag team, and hopefully that stays together. But, this was, as everybody expected, Sasha and Bayley's moment. They entered first, which is what caused me to want to pick the Iconics instead of them when we did our predictions. But it was just a ploy to have them go the distance and win the championships. And their speech at the end was great. I really loved it. I really like both Bayley and Sasha, both, watching them in the ring. And I also, personally, I have known Sasha and from backstage interactions from Down, and she is just a great, genuine person. So it's great to see her get even more success. They both work their asses off in the ring, backstage. So it's really cool to see, one half of the four horsewomen get recognized, the first ever women's tag team champions, and they will be defending the championships on both Raw, SmackDown, and even NXT. So it'll be interesting to see who emerges as their first challengers, whether that's Nia Jackson-Tamina, the Iconics, or maybe even Fire and Desire. Hugo Gonsalves says the Women's Elimination Chamber match wasn't a very good match with some matches and teams that, in my opinion, are better should have been on the match. I don't know what teams you're referring to, because I don't know which other women are left. Like, the majority of the main roster women were pretty much in that match. Like, there really wasn't anybody else. There was Ruby Riott, who was in the title match against Ronda Rousey, Charlotte and Becky, who are in a rivalry for that Raw Women's Championship, and really Asuka. So I don't really know who else you could be referring to as other tag teams that would deserve to be in that match. But I think some things were a little sloppy. Yes, it wasn't the greatest match. It wasn't mind-blowing, but I think it was good. It had some really good, cool moments. And I think that just the image of seeing Sasha and Bayley win was great. I think the eliminations were fair. Naomi and Carmella got taken out really quick, which some people think might be because of the whole Carmella-Corey Graves thing that came out earlier that day. But also, I think it was just the fact that they were the most unestablished tag team out of all the duos there. Riot Squad did pretty well. They had a few moments to shine. Of course, Nia Jackson-Tamina got their moments. The Iconics had their moment by eliminating Carmella and Naomi. So yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. I enjoyed it. It wasn't the greatest match ever, no, but it was enjoyable. It was entertaining, and we got an iconic moment to see the first quote unquote women's tag team champions crowned. Hugo Gonsalves also says about the cruiserweights that he says they need to be on the pre-show to have decent airtime. That depends, because I think on the kickoff they only had 10-15 minutes, if I recall correctly, on the pre-show. So like, what are we worried that they're going to have a 5-minute match? I think it really, for this show, I think it made sense. Because really, you look at the rest of the card and you're like, where else could you put them? But I think on shows that have maybe bigger cards, or shows that go longer, it'd be nice if they weren't on the kickoff show. Maybe just once or twice they could actually like showcase their talents on the main card. Because it also perpetuates that stereotype or that stigma that the cruiserweights like truly aren't the main roster, and so they aren't worth checking out. So I feel like at least every once in a while the cruiserweights should be on the main card to be able to showcase what they can do and show that they are important, and the product they put on 205 Live is actually good and worth watching. And some people might argue, and we'll get to this when we talk about this match later, later that Corbin and Strowman should have been on the kickoff show, and the cruiserweights should have been in that spot. And while I kind of agree with that, like when we get to that match, I'll explain why I think that like it actually ended up being fair with the way that worked out. Following the Tag Team Elimination Championship match, we got another tag team match of the Usos versus McMiz. And the Usos actually surprisingly beat McMiz to win the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Now, I was originally going to pick the Usos, so shame on me. At the end of the day, it wouldn't have mattered again in my predictions against D-Murph, but I thought that Jimmy's arrest on early on in the week was going to allow them to be threats to McMiz, but not win the titles. But they showed that, there was a little bit of disorderly conduct. It wasn't really that serious of an offense, I suppose, in the WWE eyes. So they let the Usos go over. I thought it was a solid match. Nothing too great, but I really did enjoy the finish. The finish I absolutely loved. D-Murph enjoyed it as well. I loved that, Miz got a little over anxious, a little overconfident, a little, I guess overconfident would be the right term. Arrogant, maybe more so overconfident in believing that, putting Shane in another situation where he's going to kill himself through an elbow to take out one of the Uso brothers. That way he can finish off the match. And then he goes in, hits the skull crushing finale, but gets rolled up. Some people had a problem with the fact that some people have a problem with the fact that it was like, oh, the Usos almost like, I can't remember which Uso ended up rolling up Miz for the win out of the skull crushing finale. Said that, oh, this hurts the Miz's finisher. But when you look at it really, like, it doesn't really hurt it too much, because Miz took his time trying to roll him over and get the pin, which makes it a slow cover, which means if Miz pinned him immediately, maybe he wouldn't have been able to recognize in time to roll Miz up. And I kind of like the fact that it was a surprise cover out of nowhere. Miz thought he had the match won, and it sells this kind of disappointment and this this turn in character for the Miz, especially after they had Maurice come out at the beginning and announce that he's going to be a father times 2. And just the look on his face, especially when he looked at Shane at the end, when he didn't expect to lose it like that and was so upset and so sorry. I loved it. I thought it furthered their story really, really well. And it's interesting to see where they're going to take these two. Are they going to keep... The big question here is that Miz and Shane have worked really well as a tag team, as a duo right now. So the question is, do you keep them challenging for the tag titles, which are going to be doing? They're going to have a rematch at Fastlane against the Usos. But do you break them up and have them face off against each other? Or do you keep them as a tag team and have them battle for the tag team titles at WrestleMania, potentially in a losing effort, before you just have them go their separate ways? Which, when this story started getting built in the fall, you didn't think so, but they really have developed a nice kind of chemistry together, and it's been a good story, and you almost kind of don't want to see them break up now. It's weird. Human Saba says Mickie James and Alexa, which, fair enough. Nikki Cross and Alicia Fox should have been on the match. I don't think so. Nikki Cross doesn't have any. Nikki Cross's personality. Yes, Nikki Cross is very good, but she just joined the main roster. There's going to be plenty of time for her to find spots on cards like that. There's a good chance that she might actually be the one who challenges Asuka for the SmackDown Women's Championship going into WrestleMania, but she just came into the main roster. She doesn't have, and her personality and her character doesn't really have a solid, cohesion with anybody. I think, yeah, she did tag with Alicia Fox, but they're really not buddy. They're two loose cannons, and it got proven by the fact that I believe they were in a qualifying match and lost. So I don't think they work really well as a tag team. Mickie and Alexa, yeah, I can see that argument. Maybe they should have been in there instead of Carmella and Naomi, because they're more of an established unit. But somebody's got to get left out. Maybe it would have been nice if Mickie and Alexa were out there for the Riot Squad, but you can also look at it this way. They saw an opportunity to build the Riot Squad, to build teams that could be more established in this chamber. And, Mickie James and Alexa, it's not like they needed to be in that match to further establish themselves in their career. Alexa is a multi-time women's champion. She's going to win the championship again eventually. And Mickie James is already a certified legend and future Hall of Famer. They both really didn't need to be in that match. Would it have been nice if they were in there? But I think it was okay to have teams in there like the Riot Squad and maybe help build up Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan a little bit more. And you say that, Nikki Cross would have been perfect for that match? Yeah, she would have been. She seems like she would be great in an Elimination Chamber match. Does that mean she needs to be in every single women's Elimination Chamber match that happens? No. There will be more future Elimination Chamber matches and potentially pay-per-views. I know WWE is thinking of doing away with the gimmick pay-per-views, like the gimmick match pay-per-views, but I'm sure they won't do away with the Elimination Chamber match itself, and I'm sure she'll find herself into a women's Elimination Chamber match in the future for a Raw Women's Championship, or it's a SmackDown Women's Championship. But right now, they're just bringing her in. They're establishing her character. If this was a singles match, I think she would have fit in better. I think maybe it would be good to fit her in there. But the fact that she, again, is just establishing her character, we don't know what brand she's going to be on. We don't know if they're going to eventually put her with Sanity. And she doesn't really have an established relationship with Alicia Fox, who is actually a Raw superstar. And if you put them together, Nikki Cross, you don't know what brand she's on. Maybe she's representing SmackDown, but Alicia Fox is a Raw person. And then who do you bump out of there? Again, do you bump out the Riot Squad, who have been established for years and who deserve that little bit of spotlight to help establish themselves in this new tag division? Or do you take away one of the SmackDown teams? Granted, Naomi and Carmella were just established, but you could maybe keep establishing them, and it would have made things lopsided on Raw versus SmackDown, and a Raw team won, so it would have looked unfair to SmackDown, and it would have looked like Raw is destroying SmackDown once again. So I understand what you're saying, that Nikki Cross, she is a great wrestler. She is a great competitor. She's been a veteran of the business for a long time. I love her personality. I love what she can do in the ring, and the Elimination Chamber match fits perfectly with her, but I don't think it just fit for her character. Again, Mickie James and Alexa Bliss, you can make a much better argument for, but I think they're two established people who I think they're better suited for Alexa being a singles competitor, going for the Raw Women's Championship once the dust settles between Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda Rousey post WrestleMania. And there's a chance that maybe Mickie James and Alexa get involved in the Raw or the Women's Tag Team Championship match at WrestleMania. Who knows if it'll be a multi-team match. So we'll see. I think we don't have to worry much about Mickie James and Alexa. It would have been nice to see them in there, but I can understand why all the teams that were in there, except for, again, maybe Carmella and Naomi were in there. But the issue with Carmella and Naomi is they're a SmackDown tag team. You need another SmackDown tag team in there to balance out the representation from both brands. And, there was nobody else on the SmackDown women's roster really that you could put in there, unless you wanted to throw Lana in with somebody, which I don't think would have worked out very well. So there, that's my take on that. So now I'm going to go ahead. We're going to push forward on the show, push forward on the card. Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush defended the Intercontinental Championship against Finn Balor in a handicap match. And what I said I thought was going to happened, but I picked against it, and I didn't think they were going to take the championship off of Bobby Lashley so soon, but they did. I said, chances are this is a handicap match. That way Lio Rush can eat the pin off of Finn Balor, so you protect Bobby despite him losing the championship and give a title to Finn Balor, and that's exactly what happened. Anyway, I thought it was a good match. It was a solid match. Everybody played their roles very well. I love the Finn Balor. The second Lio Rush was like, I got this, took advantage, and just went running out like a house on fire. Just went off on the two of them. And before Bobby Lashley could even realize what happened, hit a suicide dive to knock him down, threw Lio Rush in the ring, hit that stuff, hit the sling blade, hit his double stop, and wins the Intercontinental Championship. And I gotta say, it feels so good to finally see Finn Balor have a championship again. I think this is his first championship reign since he won the Universal Championship and became the first Universal Champion. Would it be great to see him win the Universal Championship and be the Universal Champion, maybe going into SmackDown or challenging for it against Balor and Lesnar? Yeah, it would be great, but you know what? He's the Intercontinental Champion. I think he's going to do great things with the title. I think the title is going to be safe in his hands. He'll be able to build it and establish it and make it even more important than it has been of late. And I think Bobby Lashley was a good placeholder. You might want to call him a transitional champion, but I don't know. I think he did a good job with it. And yeah, I'm really excited for where this is going to go for Finn Balor, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen with the Intercontinental Championship. And as soon as he's done with the Intercontinental Championship, hopefully the dust will be settled with whatever Rollins is doing post WrestleMania, and then maybe Balor can get involved either when Rollins wins or when a new champion, maybe when a heel champion gets the title, the Universal Championship. Look, Hugo, I'm gonna move on from the Universal Championship, and I understand, you have gripes against those two teams. And actually, no, Riot Squad and Fire and Desire have not been around for more than a year because they both got moved up when Paige was still an active competitor. And Paige has been forced in retirement for about 2 or 3 years now. So Riot Squad and Fire and Desire have not been up for like a year. They've been up actually for a long time, for quite a while, for a few years on the main roster. And, you say only Liv and Mandy are decent wrestlers. I disagree. I think Sonya Deville is a good wrestler, and I think Sarah Logan's a good wrestler. I think they need to be established more because they've been a team more. So, I think it's fine. I think it's good. They're trying to develop tag teams and develop them more and give them more spotlight and build teams that have been around for a while and give them more credibility as opposed to just making teams out of nowhere. Like a Nikki Cross and Alicia Fox. But all right. That's the last I'm going to talk about this. If you want to say anything more about it, Hugo, I welcome it. I will definitely read it. But I'll be fine. They were on the main roster since the end of 2017. I don't think that's true because the Riot Squad came up when Ruby Riott came up, and Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose were supposed to be on a team with Paige when Paige was still competing, and I don't remember Paige retiring that soon. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but even if they've been only on the main roster for a year, they've still been in NXT for longer than Nikki Cross has been. And, they're an established team. So, and you said what, like a year? If it was the end of 2017, we're almost into March of 2019, so it's about a year and almost a half. So we'll see. I don't know what to tell you, man. You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm glad that you feel so strongly about it. But yeah, let's move on. I gotta move on from this. I'm harping on this more than I should. So it's just a bit of nice spirited conversation. I don't think that match affected Lashley, the Intercontinental Championship match. No, I don't believe it did, because he didn't eat the pin. He did not eat the pinfall. Lio Rush did, and he beat the hell out of Lio Rush after the fact. And now, as you saw, he helped beat up a certain someone later on in the show, and he's still challenging Finn Balor. I think he was fine the fact that Lio Rush ate that pin. I don't think it affects Bobby Lashley at all. Adam Ridd, I'll get to what you said. I don't think that's true, but I will get to that later. I will get to your stuff later because it's on the agenda. Raw Women's Championship match was next. Ronda versus Ruby. A lot of people are upset with the way Ruby was treated here. And while I do see their point, I respectfully disagree with them. But I do see their point. Ruby has been a veteran of the game for a while. She's a leader of a trio, of a faction, and Ronda just destroyed her. But here's the thing. Ruby Riott's going to be around for a long time. Who knows how much longer Ronda's going to be around for. And Ronda's been established as the biggest ass kicker in the women's division. She has beaten the likes of Nikki Bella, who is, as much as you might feel about Nikki was the longest reigning Divas champion. That's fact. Whether it's fair or not to the women's division, to AJ, that's your own personal opinion. But the fact of the matter is, in kayfabe, Nikki Bella was the big bad, the main boss of the women's division. And not only did Ronda beat her, but she's beaten everybody else that she's come into contact with. And you need to make Ronda look strong going into WrestleMania. Ronda has a big match at WrestleMania, potentially the main event, the last match going on. Ruby, while she is very good, for the time being, she doesn't have anything big going on, and she did get a better match the following night on Raw. I think Ruby, there are times where most superstars are going to take defeats like this, especially before they're established champions. And Ruby, I think, will be a future women's champion. She's already challenged for it multiple times. And her character right now is perfectly fine eating this, defeat. And she'll recover after WrestleMania. She'll be fine. And the next night on Raw proved it when she had a longer match against Ronda and went the distance more with Ronda. But this just helped establish Ronda in a moment of showmanship against Charlotte. And that match aside, while the match wasn't great, the segment that happened afterwards was incredible. I liked that Charlotte came out and just stared down Ronda, and then Ronda looked aside, and here comes Becky on crutches. Not sure if it was entirely a fake out that she needed crutches because she wasn't limping so bad after the fact. But then she proceeds to beat the living hell out of Charlotte with her crutches, and then lures Ronda into a false sense of security, and then beats the hell out of Ronda, and gives Ronda a gash that she needed stitches on. I thought that was awesome. It helped establish Becky Lynch more as the man, as being badass, and made her look strong. And, Ronda didn't look too bad because she got kind of suckered and lured in, which is fair because, Becky has been kind of beat up Charlotte, which Charlotte deserved. And it didn't make Ronda look weak because she just destroyed Ruby Riott, and the fact that she got some color and looked pissed off after the fact helped her as well. I think it looked good for everybody. It was great for Becky. It helps build up the build into WrestleMania, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen this Monday on Raw. It'll be today if you're watching on YouTube, tomorrow if you're listening to this the day that comes out or watching this live with the birthday celebration for Ric Flair. So let's see. What are guys saying in here? Big Stupid, I'm not arguing, but how does that make her look strong when WWE themselves told you don't bother thinking Riott had any chance of winning? Well, I don't know what you mean by that. Like, what do you mean by them saying don't think Riott had any chance of winning? If were the commentators saying that? Because I highly doubt like WWE officially said that. If you're interpreting that from the match, well then she doesn't. She doesn't because Ronda is so strong. That's the thing. Like, unless your name is Charlotte or Becky Lynch, you are going to be destroyed by Ronda Rousey because she is so strong. I mean, look at Nia. The match that Ronda had with Nia, if I'm remembering correctly, and maybe I'm not. Ronda, for the most part, at the end of the day, destroyed Nia at the end. And Nia was a little bit of a challenge. She's more physically imposing than Ruby Riott. So I think basically, like, yeah, when you're putting somebody like Ruby Riott, who, has not been a champion and doesn't have the momentum on the same level as Charlotte and Becky Lynch, she's got to give. She's just going to fall victim to getting steamrolled. And it's the same thing that you do, with certain people that Brock Lesnar will face. Like, for example, I mean, I know he's a terrible example thinking about it, but he was a former WWE champion at the time. Like, look at when Brock Lesnar destroyed Jinder Mahal and the Singh brothers. Like, yes, maybe if it was a few years earlier, Jinder's a jobber, but Jinder was an established WWE champion with a decently long run at the time, and he made him look like nothing. And at the same time, Ruby hasn't even won a championship. Hugo, by the way, thank you so much for the host. I appreciate it. 6 days before Elimination Chamber, Vince said it's going to be Rousey losing the belt to Charlotte Flair. Whatever you don't whatever. You don't need to waste any more time on it. Just move on. It's fine. We're having a conversation. I don't know where you're hearing this from. Was this rumors? Because is this an actual quote from Vince McMahon? Because if you're talking about the promo, well then, yeah, kayfabe wise, that's where the story is going. But you still have to have, even if you have the match, Ronda still has to steamroll through the person to make her look good. To make her look good when competing against Charlotte. It doesn't matter whether or not the match is happening. It's the fact that you want both competitors to look like they are the best of the best in the division. So, Adam, I already talked about who I think might challenge for the women's tag team titles, so we're going to move on from there. Next up was what a lot of people feel is the low point of the show, Baron Corbin versus Braun Strowman. Baron Corbin ended up winning the no DQ match, but with the help of Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, they are back together as a trio, which, sure, I guess. And then they triple powerbomb Braun Strowman through 2 or 3 stacked tables for the win. And a lot of people are upset with this because they feel like, it's something that could have happened on a Raw. Why was this on the card? This is why. Because let's take the Cruiserweight Championship again. Let's say you put the Cruiserweight Championship in there. We just had a high of Becky Lynch coming out, the place coming unglued, and her beating the living hell out of Ronda Rousey and Charlotte. You think that the crowd, when we're towards the end of the show, is going to have the energy, especially knowing that the WWE Championship match is up next, to be super into the Cruiserweights. Granted, the Cruiserweights were on the pre-show, but also, the Cruiserweights, I guess was mentioned before, were given a fair enough amount of time. And I don't think this match was too bad, to be honest with you. I think it furthered the plot. It gave Braun something to do. It gave Corbin something to do. It finally gave Corbin a win on a main pay-per-view. So I think where it was on the card, they needed a cool-down match, and they didn't want to give that to the Cruiserweights because they didn't want that perception. Not that putting them on the pre-show is much better, but, they were between a rock and a hard place there. And so they decided to go with the established characters on the quote-unquote main shows over the Cruiserweights. And, maybe if the card was structured differently, it would have made more sense if the Cruiserweights were on there. But, not every single show is going to be perfect. Not every single show is going to have a 5-star match. And I think when you look at the pay-per-view as a whole, I think this was just a little minor blip. And it was okay, that's cool. It did its thing. I'm not going to complain. It was entertaining at the very least. And it was what it was. Because I'll give you the rumor that I'll give you a rumor they did that to set up those 3 versus Braun, Ambrose, Reigns. I don't know. I don't think so. A lot of people think Reigns is coming back. And we'll get to that later. But I'm not sure. And, again, it's just rumors. There are rumors all the time in wrestling, and 90% of them do not come true. So I try not to read too much into rumors. I read them that's cool. Did it come from any kind of inside sources? If it did, then I'll say, okay, maybe. But, also the fact that Vince changes his mind on things so much that I'm not sure. And what does... my thought are what did I guess it makes sense because you were doing Shield versus Braun with 2 of those 3, and it needs to do some gymnastics. I guess we'll see what happens tomorrow, but I don't know. I don't know if I see that coming. But we'll see. We'll see. I could very well be wrong. We'll see what happens on Raw tomorrow night. Humans obviously completely agree with what I say about that. That's cool. And yeah, Big Stupid, I agree. It's interesting fantasy booking to speculate. And we do have 6 weeks before WrestleMania. So it's fun to speculate and think about. It would be entertaining. It's just I feel like I'm doing mental gymnastics to validate the why it would happen. But you could do it if you wanted to be lazy about it. You could figure it out easily. Just have those 3 come out during Reigns' thing. establish the fact that maybe Braun acknowledges that he was wrong allying with them later and wants to help Ambrose and Reigns. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it is fun, a fantasy book. Anyway, the WWE Championship match is the final part of the show, and this I think might very well have been the best match of the night, and it's all because of one guy, Kofi Kingston. Kofi had an unbelievable performance in this Elimination Chamber match, and God, I wanted him to win it so bad. I still want him to win it. I want it to be Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston at WrestleMania. And some people are saying, rumors are that's not going to happen. Some people think the New Day is going to break up and they're going to face off against each other. I can't stop telling you guys, New Day is never breaking up. I will believe it when it happens because I know those guys from back when I used to work there. And if there is one thing they are more adamant about anything else, it's the three of them. They are willing to, unless they got convinced by somebody on the creative team, they're willing to like walk away from WWE against rather than break up. So anything where I hear that it's like they're gonna break up and Kofi and E are gonna go up against each other and like Austin's gonna be caught in the middle, stuff like that, or you know they're gonna turn on each other in the match, I can't bring myself to believe that. Unless they have somehow been convinced by creative to break up, they are never breaking up. Like, those three will never break up. And I will admit to being wrong when I see it, but, like, I just know from my personal experience, knowing those guys, they won't break up. And Big Super, yeah, I agree with you. Even if they, quote-unquote, break up, it's not going to be believable at all. But yeah, because they're best friends. So, like, why bother? Everybody knows that they're, like, the best of friends backstage, especially with Up, Down, Down, and the way that has established them even more so as a inseparable trio. But again, hashtag Kofi Mania, baby, as Big Stupid says. I want Kofi. I want this program to continue running into WrestleMania, which is what I've been saying. What I thought might happen, I thought we might get New Day versus D-Bry and Eco Warriors because the New Day are so good at shilling merch and so entertaining while doing it, which is the exact opposite of what Daniel Bryan is because he's so anti like uber consumerism or mindless consumerism. That it just makes for a natural rivalry. In addition to the fact that you add to the layer that, you know, Kofi's never truly won the big one, and Daniel Bryan can hone in on that. Plus the fact that if you do eventually bring in at Fastlane, say you bring a Harper or a Wyatt in to align themselves with Daniel Bryan as opposed to going against Daniel Bryan, that people believe might happen, then you've got the added wrinkle of the fact that the New Day have gone to war with the Wyatt family before, and if you can somehow tie that into who those guys used to be, that adds yet another layer to this match and this rivalry. There are layers upon layers upon layers. It's like ogres. This rivalry is like ogres. They have layers. But Kofi, again, stole the show, went nuts. The crowd erupted when he hit Trouble in Paradise, and we were shocked that D-Bry kicked out. And then when he got hit with the first knee, he kicked out of the running knee. How many people kick out of the running knee at all? But Kofi did it, and that place, there have been a few times I have heard arenas that loud. And they were huge for Kofi. Kofi stole the show. He stole the pay-per-view. He deserves to be in the spot of Fastlane. And I hope if he doesn't win it at Fastlane that he wins it at WrestleMania. Because I want that moment. I want Kofi to finally win the big one. He's deserved it for a long time. I feel like he's been overshadowed. It should have been something that happened 5, potentially like 10 years ago. And it just hasn't, and it's a shame. Maybe that 10 years ago, maybe 5 to 7. I think Kofi was just coming into the E around like 10 years ago in 2008, 2009. He was the first one to kick out of the running knee. Says he was obvious. Is that a fact? If it is, then that's amazing. Because like I said, I don't think I've seen anybody kick out of the running knee. Not John Cena. Not nobody. I don't think Daniel Bryan covered ever. Yeah, Daniel Bryan I don't think ever covered Brock Lesnar when he had his match with Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series. But other notes from the match. The rest of the match was solid. Samoa Joe practically killed himself running through one of the pods. Jeff Hardy had an amazing swanton from the top of a pod. onto a AJ Styles who was laying across the top turnbuckle. And then Randy Orton had a hell of an elimination on AJ Styles. Just as AJ goes to rebound off the top rope, just grabbing him and RKOing him off the top rope. So I thought this was a really great match. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Kofi stole the show, and Kofi needs to be WWE champion. And then again, as a whole, I thoroughly enjoyed Elimination Chamber. I was entertained by it a lot. Was it perfect? No. Yes, you could nitpick the women's tag team title. You could nitpick the fact that the Cruiserweight Championship was on the pre-show. You could nitpick the placement of Strowman and Corbin, or the fact that could even have been there. You can nitpick the finish of the Usos versus Miz and Shane, which I disagree with. But I thought it was great booking. I thought it worked great. I thought everything had a purpose. Everything had a place. Everything did what it needed to do. Everything moved stories along, gave us some great moments, and really helped build towards WrestleMania 35 and just a little over a month. We were just a little over a month away. I think we're 5 or 6 weeks away now. So yeah. Mixu says, if he wins, I think it's more likely a fast lane than a Mania that could set up a rematch. It could. As long as he wins it. That's all that matters. And I would love to see him win the WrestleMania match, whether that's winning the championship or defending it. I think you need to have him win at a WrestleMania for 2 reasons. Just because I don't think you want to pull a Bayley situation, which took the wind out of that match. Of giving her that big win just before WrestleMania as opposed to at WrestleMania. And also, I think if Kofi wins, I think you have to have that Eco Championship at WrestleMania just because I think it's so goddamn cool. Unless Vince really doesn't want that thing on WrestleMania, wants the original championship on there, then you have him win. Or you can go and, just have Kofi win, and maybe he decides to keep the Eco Championship just for fun, just to kind of taunt Daniel Bryan. All right, thanks for coming along, Hugo. Thank you for joining. And yeah, I know that we have a different opinion, but I'm glad that you come in and you debate with me and discuss with me, and have we have heated discussions on things. It's nice to have differing opinions because, without differing opinions, we don't have anybody who can potentially challenge our worldview and potentially open our eyes to, different perspectives. So I think it's really cool. So thanks, Hugo. Have a good one. Take care. Chris Dufly, what is up? Welcome to the chat. Is that Eco belt for sale? That determines if they like it or not. I don't think it is, but I think they should put it on sale because I think it's amazing. So that's it for Elimination Chamber. Let's go ahead and let's get into the weekly TV recap because we've still got a lot of stuff to get through and it's already 12:48. So first big thing from the weekly recap, DX became the first announced inductees and headliners for the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2019, which was cool. The induction includes all members sans Rick Rude, which was kind of weird. I think Rick Rude's already a Hall of Famer though, so that's okay. But it's weird they didn't include him. But then again, he was also only in DX for like a hot minute, for like maybe like a month or two. But I mean, I guess by that distinction, if you were going to include Rick Rude, you would probably include Tori as well. So I mean, I guess I can understand. But the person who is included in DX is Chyna. Chyna will finally enter the Hall of Fame via induction from DX. Maybe, hopefully, she'll eventually get inducted by herself too. But the fact that one of the biggest, I guess you call it wrongs. I don't want to say wrongs, but like, I don't want to say it's like exactly a wrong righted, but it's like one of the big inductions that needed to happen has finally happened with Chyna getting in there and DX headlining. So it'll be interesting. We are now, I guess, in the Hall of Fame reveal season, so I'm sure we'll find out who the next inductee will be next week because they seem to, WWE leaks it out pretty much to a different news outlet like every single week, each person. So it'll be interesting to find out through the press who will join them tomorrow, aka today, if you're watching or listening to this on Monday. And Big Susan, I think his double duty night scam he pulled, I think they say F him because of that. I can understand that. Maybe that's why. I also think, again, it's because he wasn't really with DX for that long and he isn't really a memorable member of DX. Whenever he was with DX, he was all kind of just there, just standing there, didn't really say too much. So And like if that was the case, they might not have put him in the Hall of Fame to begin with, and I'm pretty sure he's in the Hall of Fame as himself. Anyway, let's get to the big thing. I think DX is the headliner. Yeah, because the headliner is always the first one announced. They always announce the headliner, the headline act for the Hall of Fame class first. Warrior was announced first when he was in it. I think Edge was announced first when he was the headliner. So yeah, I think DX is going to be the headliner. That doesn't mean there's not going to be like other significant inductions into the Hall of Fame, but I think DX is going to be the last one, like the ones who close out the Hall of Fame and be branded as the headlining induction. The other big news that happened this week, which was revealed on Raw, and this is what Adam Ritt was just asking in chat, is that Ricochet, Aleister Black, Johnny Wrestling, aka Johnny Gargano, and Tommaso Ciampa all made their debuts on the main roster on both Raw and SmackDown. Unfortunately, the crowds were not too into them, which was unfortunate. I understand that they wanted to capitalize on the fact that they recently did Halftime Heat, and props them for trying something new. But they're going to be in Atlanta this Monday, which is more of a wrestling town. And coming up, in addition to like being in Brooklyn at post WrestleMania, which might have been too late, but coming up, they do have dates in Chicago and Boston and other like more wrestling-esque towns. So I don't know if they were like in a rush to get them exposure far enough out from WrestleMania, but like it's interesting they had them come out in Lafayette, which is like, while I'm sure they enjoy their wrestling, is not like the smarkiest, I guess would be the phrase. I always feel like smark is a derogatory term, but I don't tend to use it too much as a derogatory term. But like not the smarkiest or most hardcore, I guess would be better, of wrestling cities. So they didn't really get a lot of huge pops when they were out there doing their matches. And Ricochet and they all had a really solid match. Aleister Black was okay with Elias on Raw, but Gargano and Ciampa had a hell of a match with the Revival, and Ricochet had a really good match as well, both on SmackDown and on Raw. The big thing that came out of the debuts, though, were that Gargano and Ciampa were made to look really strong, which makes sense since they're the North American and NXT champions at the time of the shows. So they beat both the Revival, who are the current Raw Tag Team champions, and the Bar. So I'm going to be interested to see when we get to what happens to the NXT tapings, how that's going to play out in the weeks going forward. But we'll see. It'll certainly be interesting. And I'm not sure. They said this is like their debuts, but I don't know. Who knows if they're going to be coming back regularly or if this was just a 1 week thing. It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen going forward. Maybe this is a thing where it's like, we're going to introduce them this week, and then maybe like a couple weeks later we'll bring them back, or in these weeks maybe we try to trickle them out, slow roll them, but we'll see. They did their best to try and like portray them with really cool graphics. They stole the show with Halftime Heat, but unfortunately just not the right cities to debut these guys in. Hopefully going forward they will be doing some more stuff. Chris Fly says, I think there were a whole bunch of members who were only there for a second, and you can't include every one of those guys. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like the NWO. Like, you're not going to induct Buff Bagwell. You're not going to induct the LWO. You're not going to induct every single member of the Wolfpack. You're not going to induct NWO Sting. But yeah, it's just Rick Rude was with the original DX. So that's the only reason why it's interesting, and it raises an eyebrow that he wasn't included. Adam Ritt says they will be on SmackDown this week. Okay, cool. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do on SmackDown in week number 2, and to see what they do to build them. And yeah, WWE already said Gargano versus Cesaro this week, so they might be here to stay. If they are, cool. Hopefully they get more of a build. Hopefully when they hit the Bostons and the Chicagos, the crowds will be really behind them. They're not going to get the pop of the debut, but hopefully the crowds will be behind them and it'll help build them. Also, on this week, speaking of SmackDown, Kofi Kingston got a clean pinfall on D-Bry after hitting him with a Trouble in Paradise in a 6-man tag team match on SmackDown this week, and he has been named the number 1 contender at Fastlane. Also, it was revealed that McMiz will get their tag title rematch against the Usos at Fastlane. And then another interesting thing that happened on SmackDown was that Mandy Rose defeated Asuka in a non-title match. So they might be setting up, even though I mentioned, before that Fire and Desire might challenge the tag titles, they might be setting up Mandy Rose versus Asuka, if not at Fastlane, then at WrestleMania, which could be interesting. Because Mandy, again, she's got the charisma. She's a solid worker. She'll have Sonya Deville with her, so it could be interesting. The two of them combined could be a solid threat for Asuka. Although I'd really like to see Nikki Cross challenge Asuka for the SmackDown women's title come WrestleMania. But we'll see. If they can do it right, I think I'll be entertained. I don't care. I like Mandy Rose. I like Sonya Deville. I love Asuka. So, Adam Ripper Ciampa needs to lose his title. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. He probably will. But he doesn't. You don't necessarily need to have the NXT champion separated from the main roster, like not have the championship while on the main roster. Because Kevin Owens, when he debuted, he was the NXT champion. I think when Neville first debuted, he might have still been the NXT champion. And I think when Big E debuted, he was still NXT champion. Although I don't think they carried the championship around with them. But then again, that was also a different era of NXT. With this one, they're trying to synergize more and show that it's more of like cohesive. So we'll see. And I disagree with them needing to stop the brand split. If you stop the brand split, then the guys who were upset about, the guys and gals you're upset about not getting enough time, if you think they're not getting enough time when each show has hold on. Let me get back to my thought. They need to stop with the brand split. Yeah, like if you think guys aren't getting enough time on the shows now when they're separate, imagine when all the main roster guys have to be in the segments of both shows. Like you think it's bad now that certain people aren't getting enough time. The brand split needs to stay in order for people to thrive, in order for them to be able to allow more people on the roster to have significant airtime. Footballers, I don't think Neville or E had it. You mean on the main roster? Because they both were definitely obvious champions. Seth did, though. He lost shortly after. Yeah, but anyway, what I'm saying is that the NXT champion can be on the main roster. And, Johnny could win it, which we'll get to the NXT tapings. We'll get to spoilers or whatever. Say, Johnny or Aleister Black. This is me proofing all of this. Say Aleister Black, Ricochet, or Gargano defeat Ciampa for the NXT championship at the next takeover if they face them. They could very well lose it the next takeover to their first challenger and then end up on the main roster and only be the NXT champion while being on the main roster for a few months, which isn't that big of a deal. Anyway, moving on. We also found out that there will be an 8-man tournament to determine who Buddy Murphy's challenger will be for the Cruiserweight Championship at WrestleMania. It got announced 205 Live. The first two matches in the tournament, which are taking place this week, will be Kalisto versus Tony Nese and Brian Kendrick versus Drew Gulak. If I was going to pick, I would say Kalisto will probably beat Tony Nese and Gulak will beat Brian Kendrick, but who knows? Yeah, that's going to happen on Tuesday, and I guess we'll get more matches on 205 Live as we go forward, because 205 Live only has 2 matches every show, so each episode will probably see matches from the tournament. And then we found out on NXT this week, if you guys remember, about a month ago, they did the NXT tapings, and it seemed like Velveteen Dream had beaten Johnny Gargano for the NXT North American title, but then Johnny came out afterwards, beat him up, put him in a Gargano escape, even though the bell had already been rung, and Gargano was pinned for a 3, and then Gargano was given the championship and celebrated, and him and Ciampa beat down Dream. That was all just meant to swerve, those of us who check out the results of what happened and to make people not be sure about who won the championship. But we found out via the airing of the episode this week that indeed that was all a swerve, the post-match stuff. Velveteen Dream beat Johnny Gargano in a hell of a match. I loved the finish. I loved how, and it protects Johnny, how Dream just did his 2 rolling Death Valley drivers into the elbow almost simultaneously, and he is your new NXT North American champion. Velveteen Dream, Patrick Clark, is finally a champion in NXT. Oh man, I can't wait to see him continue to develop. He's going to be an NXT champion eventually. He's going to get called up, and he's going to be big on the main roster when he gets there, and it is awesome. And I loved that they had Ciampa look down on Gargano from the rafters and almost shake his head. It builds to what happens at the NXT tapings. Footballer says they should put the NXT title on Adam Cole, baby. I agree. Who should face Buddy Murphy at Mania? I don't know, Adam. We got to find out all the competitors in the tournament first, because we don't know all the competitors in the tournament right now, I believe. So when we find out who all the competitors are and who survives the first round, I'll probably be able to give you a better answer for that. And also, before I get into the NXT tapings, because that's spoilery, I also want to mention that on NXT UK, Toni Storm successfully defended her NXT Women's UK title match in a rematch against Rhea Ripley. They're both really good dudes, so it'll be cool. Footballers thinks Gulak's going to win, but we'll see, because Gulak's a heel and Buddy Murphy's also a heel, so I don't know about that. Anyway, we're going to talk about the NXT tapings and what happened in the NXT tapings. So, spoiler warning, if you guys do not want to get spoiled about what happens on NXT with the tapings, skip ahead by about, I'd say, 5 minutes. I'll make sure I wrap this up in about 5 minutes. And then come back if you want to like experience NXT as it airs. When will they call up Toni Storm on the main roster? Not for a while. She just started in NXT UK. She's the champion there, and they and she just did the Mae Young Classic. It's gonna be a while. It's probably gonna be a couple years. Yep. 3, 2, 1. Spoiler time. Let's talk about the NXT championships, or the NXT tapings that happened this week. It got revealed that the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic is returning, and the winner will face War Raiders. They will be the challengers for War Raiders at NXT TakeOver New York for the NXT Tag Team titles. The teams that are competing, and we already know who the finals are, because they already did the first round of the semifinals. But the teams that competed were Aleister Black and Ricochet, Fabian Eichner and Marcel Barthel, DIY, Gargano and Ciampa had a promo where they reunited, decided to join forces for this Tag Team Classic. So that way they could hold, so that way it could be DIY's moment. They could hold, heel DIY could hold all the gold. The North American, well, not the North American anymore, but they can win the tag team titles while Gargano had the NXT championship. Undisputed Era, represented by Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, the original tag team before Fish got hurt, and Roddy Strong took his place. Mustache Mountain, the Street Profits, the Forgotten Sons, and Orny Lorcan and Danny Burch, who, by the way, are challenging for the NXT UK tag team championships this upcoming week on NXT UK, if you want to check that out. In the first round, Black and Ricochet, Mustache Mountain, DIY, and the Forgotten Sons all advanced. I was surprised that Street Profits didn't make, and Orny Lorcan and Danny Burch didn't make it out of the first round. But again, Orny Lorcan and Danny Burch have a tag title match in NXT UK, so I guess that's not a big deal. I'm shocked that Undisputed Era didn't make it out of the first round. I believe they were beaten by the Forgotten Sons or DIY. Then the Forgotten Sons surprisingly beat Mustache Mountain. And then Black and Ricochet defeated DIY. DIY lost legitimately. So the finals are going to be the Forgotten Sons versus Black and Ricochet to determine who goes on to WrestleMania face the War Raiders. If I was a betting man, I would say the Forgotten Sons, because there needs to be a heel to take on the face team of the War Raiders. But then again, what do you do with Aleister Black and Ricochet going into WrestleMania unless you have a multi-man match? Because we've already seen, after Dream has won the championship, that both Adam Cole and someone else, I cannot place it for the life of me, I can't remember who it was, will be look like they're going to be in the mix for the Matt Riddle and Adam Cole both seem like they're interested in the North American Championship, so we might see a triple threat there. Maybe you get Black and Ricochet involved. Adam Ritz said you could do Black versus Ricochet for at TakeOver, which would be insane. I could be down with that, especially if one of them turns heel, but we'll see. Anyway, after the match of Black and Ricochet versus DIY, I believe it was Johnny Gargano took the pin. They both went up to the ring. Candice LeRae came out, and Ciampa went to turn on Gargano again, throw him into the LED board again, but Gargano saw it coming, and I'm not sure. I haven't seen video of what happened. This could be Gargano maybe having lured Ciampa into a false insecurity throughout the entire tapings and turning back face, but he slammed Ciampa back into the LED board, beat the hell out of him, and then held the NXT title high. So it looks like at NXT TakeOver New York, we haven't had the official announcement yet, but at NXT TakeOver New York, we are going to get the big final match to end all matches at NXT for the NXT Championship between Ciampa and Gargano at NXT TakeOver New York. Footballer says Walter versus Pete Dunne at TakeOver for the NXT UK title. Is that confirmed? I pretty much confirmed. I believe that's gonna happen. Like, I don't think it's confirmed, but I believe everybody believes that that's what's gonna happen. Oh, it is confirmed? Okay, great. That's gonna be awesome. Walter's probably gonna beat Pete Dunne, because Pete Dunne's had the title forever, and Walter is a legitimate person who could take out Pete Dunne. They had a contract signing. Awesome. Adam Ridd, I guess the loser gets called up. Like I said, they've both technically been called up. I think if I'm going to go back to vagueness because it's been 5 minutes. I think if the challenger defeats Ciampa at NXT TakeOver New York, I think they're both going to hold the title, and then that person's going to hold the title and then lose it at the next TakeOver while that person's called up. Do you call up Pete Dunne? I would love to see it. Maybe not after WrestleMania, since you just got these other 4 guys trying to call up. Maybe it's SummerSlam. Have him maybe battle back to get into another championship match against Walter and then lose. I could see it happening because their big things are going to be in store for Pete Dunne. They're also, keep in mind, I think around the same time as the Superstar Shakeup, they're going to be doing the International Shakeup as well, where guys from NXT UK and regular NXT are actually going to be swapping brands. So we're going to see a Superstar Shakeup between NXT and NXT UK. So there is a chance that Pete Dunne maybe doesn't get called up yet, but could get switched over to regular NXT and challenge for the regular NXT championship. That could be a thing if he doesn't get called up to the main roster. All right, so let's get into wrestling news. Man, we've been going for a while, and I still have to get into gaming. But let's get into this stuff. The big news for the week is that WWE has made a slew of releases. They have released 3 superstars, and they have reportedly also let go of a longtime producer and Hall of Famer. I forgot about the ladies. What do you mean that I forgot about the ladies, Adam Ritt? If you're talking about the NXT tapings, really, I read into it, and it doesn't seem like they haven't been doing any solid building for who's going to challenge Shayna Baszler yet. For the at WrestleMania. At least not that I know of. If you read it and I just overlooked it, I apologize. Tell me and I will read it. And then I'll quickly give a spoiler warning for like 30 seconds. Big Stupid, I see Dunn goes to NXT and he's your eventual champion. Yeah, I can see that too. Rumors have it. Rumors are that Kevin Owens will face Dan Bryan at Mania. That's what I've been hearing. I don't know if I buy it. Maybe. I really want to see Kofi challenge Daniel Bryan, and I feel like there's no build if Kevin Owens comes back. I think Kevin Owens comes back and you give him another spot. Maybe he wins the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. But right now it's just rumors and speculation. Okay. So, spoiler warning again for NXT TakeOver. Go away for about 30 seconds, and we're going to bring this up really quick. Because I'm going to talk about the tapings again and the women. You've been warned. Spoiler warning in 3, 2, 1. Adam Ritt mentions in the chat that they finally figured out a fatal 4-way at TakeOver. It will be Shayna Baszler defending against Bianca Belair, Kairi Sane, and Io Shirai for the NXT Women's Championship, which is awesome. I saw that they were teasing that in a video package this week with Belair, Sane, and Io Shirai, and this is a perfect place for Baszler to lose the title because she doesn't have to be pinned to lose the championship, and it'll finally free her up to move up. Oh, it's not official, but it looks like... Okay, so it's not confirmed. Adam Ritt, I told you to tell me if it was confirmed, man. But, yeah, it looks like in the video package they are building towards that. But we'll see. All right. So, spoilers over. Even though it technically wasn't actually spoilers. Let's move on to wrestling news. Let's talk about these releases. So, WWE announced in really brief, just one-sentence statements on WWE.com, which they never do. It's never this brief. They've confirmed the release of Hideo Itami, but also announced they have released TJP and Ty Dillinger. And Ty Dillinger requested his release earlier this week. I mean, I can't blame either TJP or Ty Dillinger for wanting. If TJP put in for his release, I can't blame him for it because he hasn't been seen as a significant challenger at the Cruiserweight Championship in forever, which I think is a crime because he is great and I loved his run as the initial Cruiserweight Champion. since it came back. And Ty Dillinger, I can't blame either. I think he's a great talent, but they just don't use him. It's unfortunate. Are they going to AEW? Says Adam Red. I don't know. We'll find out. It depends. They've been released. We'll see if they sign. I would love to see all three of them in AEW. I can see Hideo Itami just going back to Japan. But TJP and Ty Dillinger, I could see them going to AEW and doing good things. So I would be excited to see them over there. But we'll see. They're definitely not done. I'm sure if they're not picked up by AEW, they'll wrestle for ROH or PWG or Pro Wrestling Noah or New Japan. So I'm sure this isn't the end of TJP, Ty Dillinger, and Hideo Itami. I'm sure we'll get to watch them be entertaining for another company very soon. And then the other release, not confirmed yet as of this morning when I went live, from when I checked. But Ryan Satin of Pro Wrestling Sheet has reported that WWE has also released longtime producer and Hall of Famer, Four Horsemen member Arn Anderson, which is surprising. For reasons yet to be disclosed to the public. So who knows why? Maybe Arn requested his release. Maybe they decided they didn't need Arn anymore because they've brought in Abyss, Sanjay Dutt, and somebody else who I'll bring up recently. But it's unfortunate that Arn got let go. Smooth. Is Elimination Chamber today? No, it was last Sunday. We reviewed it. So that's the news on all the releases. Arn Anderson, unfortunately, who's been a longtime producer. He was a backstage producer for WCW before WWE bought them out. I believe he's been with WWE as a producer since WWE bought out WCW. Kind of a shame to see him go, but we'll see what the reasons are and see if he actually requested it to go. And yes, Jeff Jarrett, also Big Stupid, was also hired. The other big news this week, which has already been brought up in the chat, and I can address it now. Roman Reigns will be coming back to WWE TV on Raw this Monday, which is tonight if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this on Monday. And it was revealed via a tweet from Vince McMahon that said, and I quote, "At WWE Roman Reigns, a.k.a. Joe Anoa'i, will address the status of his fight with leukemia this Monday on Raw. #fighter, #proud, #classy." And then it was also revealed that the following morning he'll be appearing on Good Morning America, which was revealed in a tweet from Good Morning America, which said, and I quote, "Next Tuesday on @GMA, WWE Roman Reigns joins us live in Times Square." And then they provided a link to the Good Morning America thing. Rumors are running rampant about what this means. When I initially heard this, I believe, Adam, you told me this during one of my charity streams this week. Initially, when I didn't know about the GMA tweet, I initially thought, oh, he's just going to come in and build up, Rollins versus Lesnar, which he could still very well do. He could maybe see that the leukemia, maybe he'll come back and say that he's beaten the leukemia, but he needs to get back into wrestling shape and thus won't be competing at WrestleMania. But he could still have an on-camera role maybe involved with Rollins and Lesnar. Some people believe that he is going to reveal that he's actually beaten the leukemia in record time and will be back in time for WrestleMania, and that he'll get involved in the match, which Big Stupid mentioned, like the triple threat 6-man tag match. I don't believe so, personally, just because it would be an insane recovery. They must have caught the leukemia super early, and he must have only needed a few treatments if that's the case. Because I know that most cases with leukemia, it takes anywhere from 1 to I think like 3 years, as long as they don't catch it and it isn't fatal or something like that they caught super late, which I got to imagine with Reigns, since he already beat it once before, they checked it normally. And at least takes a few years. Like Brian Boyle in the NHL, he used to play with the Devils. He recently got traded, but when he was with the Devils, he got diagnosed with a different type of leukemia, I believe it is, and it took him a year to recover. I mean, granted, he was still actually able to play during the treatments. So maybe Roman has reached the point where maybe his leukemia has regressed enough to where he can still compete and still find time to get the remaining treatments he needs. So maybe that's the news he'll say. And he'll come back. So we'll see. But we'll have to wait and find out. Other people think that maybe this could be unfortunate news, that maybe the leukemia has taken a turn for the worse. And while maybe it's not life-threatening. It's serious enough to where he won't be able to compete anymore, and maybe he's going to announce his retirement tomorrow. And that's what his interview is going to be like before on Good Morning America. The fact that he's getting the interview on Good Morning America means that either there's been a change, either for the good or for the better, and he's either going to come back and he's going to promote WrestleMania, and he's going to talk about his progression with leukemia there, or he's going to announce his retirement due to the leukemia. So I honestly, everything is just rumors and speculation at this point. And Big Stupid points out in a 6-man, he can just come and kick ass and then tag out, which works perfectly for him if he's still battling with the leukemia, but he's contained it enough to where he can go back to wrestling. He doesn't have to do a lot, and he can still like get treatments to finally knock out the rest of the leukemia, put it fully into remission. But we will see. We will find out tomorrow, or if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this on Monday, today. If you're listening or watching this after Monday, we've already known. So you'll actually have all the answers. So please come from the future and tell me what happened. I'm curious. We will discover the truth of this appearance very soon. The final piece of news that I want to talk a little bit in depth about before we go into wrestling quick hits is Bruce Pritchard is coming back. Brother Love, you may know him better as the red-faced manager who introduced the Undertaker. This might also be a reason why Arn Anderson was released. But I don't want to say that Arn Anderson lost his job because of Bruce Pritchard, but this could be a reason. Because we still don't know the reasons of the Arn Anderson thing. But Bruce Pritchard is returning to WWE as a top member of the creative team, and this is courtesy of Mike Johnson of Pro Wrestling Insider, PWI. And the article excerpt says, and I quote from PWI, Pritchard's position was described to PW Insider as being, quote, important as possible, end quote, in creative, and he'll be one of the top point people in the creative team going forward. Pritchard, 55 years old, was best known on camera as Brother Love, but worked behind the scenes for a number of years as a producer and worked directly with Vince McMahon as one of his top lieutenants. We were told that Pritchard's new role will be very similar to his former position in that he will be working directly with McMahon on all things creative. So this will be interesting. I can't remember, but I vaguely remember hearing that Pritchard, I can't remember if this was Pritchard or Cornette when they were backstage, didn't always have the best ideas. But, I could be entirely wrong. And also, it's been a while since Pritchard's been backstage, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. See what Pritchard can bring to the table. Maybe he can provide a good solid shakeup along with all of these newer producers like Jeff Jarrett, like Abyss, like Sanjay Dutt, that can help freshen things up. And we can hopefully get some good content, creative content out of WWE going forward. So yeah, I just wanted to actually read out that quote so that way people could fully understand that he's going to have a significant position with creative. He's not just coming in to be a producer or to be a writer. He's going to have significant influence on the creative team, reportedly, according to PWI. And Big Stupid says regarding Roman Reigns, if he was retiring, I think they would have said that like they did with Bryan. I don't know if they announced that Daniel Bryan was retiring ahead of his appearance on Raw that day. I think they just said that he was going to be I think they just said that he was going to have a special announcement on Raw, and everybody had a feeling that it was going to be the retirement, but I don't think they officially announced it. Maybe they did. No, I was wrong. Footballers. Yeah, it was all rumors back then. Smoob says, hopefully the 2000s era can come back. Now, that depends on what 2000s era you're talking about. You're talking about 2000s era, like ruthless, like end of attitude era, ruthless aggression? Because if so, yes. If you're talking about PG era towards the end of the aughts, no. All right, so let's get into the wrestling quick hits. These are just stories that, clearly we've already run over an hour and I need to get into the video gaming. These are stories that I thought were interesting that you guys can go check out yourselves that I didn't have time to dive in depth about. So here we go. Netflix is close to landing a deal with for a the Hulk Hogan biopic that's being named, that has recently announced will be starring Chris Hemsworth of Marvel MCU, of the MCU fame. If you don't know, he is Thor, and he has been cast to star as the Hulkster. And the movie will have Eric Bischoff and Hogan himself featured as a producer and executive producer respectively, helping out with the creative direction of the film, which we'll see how that goes, because we know what it's like with Hogan and creative control. Boom, jokes. Anyway, they will focus on Hogan's rise to fame basically in the 70s and the 80s, and not so much on, the later controversies with Gawker and his messy divorce and, Hogan Knows Best and all that stuff. And that comes courtesy of Boris Kitt of The Hollywood Reporter. In AEW news, the over-budget Battle Royal will be returning at Double or Nothing and will feature Sonny Kiss, Kip Sabian, and Brandon Cutler. That was announced via the Road to Double or Nothing series on Cody and Brandy's Nightmare Family YouTube channel. Big stupid shocking Hogan has creative control, LOL, right? I think he's a creative consultant, so I don't think he has total creative control, but still, yeah, it is funny. ROH revealed in New Japan and ROH news. There's the rest of this is ROH New Japan related. ROH has revealed that the G1 Supercard, which is taking place the night before WrestleMania at Madison Square Garden, will be viewable on New Japan World and Honor Club for all users, not just those who made the selection to include pay-per-view events, as well as, and it will also be available on pay-per-view via Fight TV, pay-per-view and Fight TV for $39.99, and that was via the ROH Wrestling.com, the ROH website. We also found out the first announced card for match for G1 Supercard, aside from obviously whoever wins this G1 tournament versus Jay White. The Briscoes and God, Gorillas of Destiny, which is Tama Tonga and Tongaloa, who won the New Japan titles at Honor Rising. They will be facing off against each other in a title versus title match, and both titles will be on the line. So it'll be the Briscoes and God will be facing each other for both the ROH and New Japan Pro Wrestling Tag Team Championships at G1 Supercard. That'll be a good match. That'll be fun. And then the final little bit of news is that New Japan confirmed that the Royal Quest event, which is happening in the UK, that they are having over the summer, I believe it is in August, will have Tanahashi, Okada, and Naito there, which is big because Tanahashi, Okada, and Naito, and I think this was announced even before the visa problem, didn't come to the recent US shows for New Beginnings because they were also running New Beginnings shows in Japan. And that is via njpw.com. And with that, we are all done with wrestling. We are getting into the video game side of the podcast, the video game half. I say half, but not as much stuff to talk about in gaming as with wrestling. This was a huge week with wrestling with a review. A lot of stuff happened on TV. We had the NXT tapings. We had a lot of news going on. But let's get into the gaming. So Anthem, unfortunately, I didn't have time to read any of these reviews, but I have been paying attention to what people have been saying. I've been watching streamers. There's been a mixed reception to Anthem among streamers. There are some people who enjoy it. Some people say that the story is kind of bland and generic, and that there are quite a few issues, but that hopefully the patches will fix them. A lot of the end game, there's typical end game loot grind, but the official reviews have come in from the game industry, and they are not great, Bob. Not great. Kind of middling and not very well received by the mainstream gaming press. I will read up the review roundup. All these scores are rounded up and collected by VG247 and provided on their website. So go ahead and head over there. They do this for just about every single major release. So if there's ever a release that you're curious about what the reviews are, once enough reviews roll in, VG247's got you covered with their review roundup. Anyway, VG247, they do not score their review, so they just left their headline basically, which is BioWare Adrift in Design by Spreadsheet. Yikes. PC Gamer gave it a 55 out of 100. The Guardian gave it a 3 out of 5, which is fair. IGN only gave it a 6 out of 5. Metro only gave it a 6. Windows Central gave it a 3 out of 5. Gaming Bolt only gave it a 5. Polygon, they don't review scores, so here's a excerpt from them, or headline. Anthem trips over itself trying to blend two genres into one. Ars Technica also doesn't score, but here's their headline. BioWare's sky-high gaming ambition crashes back to earth. GameSpot only gave it a 6. The Digital Fix gave it a 7, and Destructoid only gave it a 7. So it seems like a Destiny killer. It is not, although you could argue that Destiny has kind of killed itself. So very interesting that Anthem has not panned out well. I've seen people who are enjoying it and getting a kick out of it. I was thinking about picking it up because I love BioWare. It seems like it's Mass Effect type gameplay. I love Destiny. I love the looter shooter. But with these reviews, definitely makes me feel like I can hold off until, and it's a shame because this is the way that it seems to be now. It seems to have become a standard in gaming, and it's really starting to get old and sick and tired, and it's driving me nuts. Is that games will release with a bunch of issues that don't feel complete, and then the developers basically need to patch their way into making a solid game that makes a comeback a year or two later, which, can be seen as a positive because a game that doesn't release too well can be patched and saved and revived, like the original Division, like Rainbow Six Siege, like No Man's Sky. But it just sucks that it's becoming the norm. It's almost as if now that developers are deliberately not releasing games with all of their features or with these errors and bugs, they're like, it's okay, we'll patch it later. So it sucks. But it looks like with these reviews and this reception and the fact that while the streamers I've watched seem to be enjoying Anthem, they don't seem to be in love with it or raving about it. This has given me enough pause to say, okay, I'll wait until Anthem sorts all this stuff out. And then when they do, like I've been saying, in a year and a half, this could be something that I can revisit once they fixed up all the issues, and then I'll run through the main story and run through the expansions and stuff like that. So as we get to now, we're going to switch over to gaming news. I've got two big stories I'm going to talk about. Then we're going to go to gaming quick hits. The big news story in gaming this week was that the Nintendo of America's president, Reggie Fis-Aime, who is a gaming icon, you might remember him from a bunch of memes from his presence at E3 press conferences and Nintendo Directs. He's been a puppet in segments along with Shigeru Miyamoto and others from Nintendo. If you know the My Body Is Ready, he is responsible for that meme. Lots of other stuff. He seemed to be like a guy who just fully enjoyed and loved what he did and loved gaming and loved what video games can do for people in the video game community. He has announced that he is retiring. He is not being forced into retirement or being forced to leave. It has been his decision to finally, call it a career and spend more time with his family. And this is a quote from Reggie via the press release on his retirement. And it says, quote, "Nintendo owns a part of my heart forever. It's a part that is filled with gratitude for the incredibly talented people I've worked with, for the opportunity to represent such a wonderful brand, and most of all, to feel like a member of the world's most positive and enduring gamer community. As I look forward to departing in both good health and good humor, this is not game over for me, but instead leveling up to more time with my wife, family, and friends." If you want to go to Nintendo of America's Twitter, also, there's a video with Reggie where he says as much here. Very touching in a I'm not crying, you're crying type of way. If you're a big video game fan, big into the industry and know Reggie, I highly recommend you guys check it out because Reggie's been such a significant part of the game industry for the past 10 years or so. And his final day will be April 15th, so he's still going to be around for about another month and a half. His replacement, by the way, is current Nintendo of America Senior Vice President. His name, and it's kind of fitting that he's taking over, is Doug Bowser. So yes, Bowser is taking over Nintendo of America, everybody. I would like to personally say thank you to Reggie for all the memories that he's built. I never got to meet Reggie in person when I was working in the game industry, but I had been to some of the Nintendo press conferences where he had made some of his memorable lines and moments. I had seen him around on the show floor every once in a while, once in a blue moon. And it's been an honor to cover. It was an honor to cover him and cover Nintendo while he was working there in the industry, and he's going to be sorely missed. He is a true industry icon and legend. Moving on from that story, we've got rundown of Apex Legends news. As you guys know, I really enjoy Apex Legends. I'm starting to put Apex Legends stuff on the YouTube channel. I've got 5 wins total. If you haven't seen the other 2 wins, don't worry, I'm going to try to clip them and get them up onto the YouTube channel soon. Been playing a lot. Might even play some more later today after I do post-production stuff on the podcast. So be on the lookout for that on twitch.tv/L_Murpho. Anyway, there's quite a bunch of news that came in from Apex Legends over the last week. First one is that Respawn has revealed that even in just like 2 weeks of being into existence, they've already banned 16,000 players in Apex Legends for cheating. That was via Respawn on Reddit. The quote here from the post says, "As of today, 16,000 cheaters have been identified and banned from the game. Cheaters suck. If you run into one, please try and capture the evidence and let us know here." And they provided a link. So if you go to Reddit and onto Respawn, you can find the report link if you play Apex Legends and want to know how to report cheaters. Anyway, it continues. "Even if you don't get proof, get their ID and flag it, and we can investigate the account. We have heard your feedback about a report feature in the game. I'll just say that's a very good idea. So expect a report feature on cheating and whatnot coming soon to Apex Legends." Other update, a new gun, the Havoc Rifle, was introduced into the game this week. It comes with a couple of hip-ups, which are like attachments that upgrade the gun. One is Turbocharge, which fires 1 strong shot, I believe, and the other one, or Turbocharge, allows it to fire in automated mode without the wind-up of the shot, and then there's another one that allows it to fire, I believe, 1 strong shot, powerful shot. I've found the Turbocharger, and I'm really not a big fan of it with the Turbocharger, but then again, I haven't really gotten a lot of practice. I don't think it competes with the top guns in the game, like the Wingman, like the Peacekeeper, like the R301 Carbine, the R99. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong because I haven't gotten a lot of time to play with it. Maybe some people are making some really good plays with the Havoc Rifle, but it's good to see new weapons already finding their way into Apex Legends. And then also, if you guys saw, Twitch Prime users are getting 5 Apex packs and a special skin for Pathfinder via the newest Twitch Prime loot. So if you have Twitch Prime and you play Apex Legends, head over there, link your Origin account, and get those packs. Granted, I got nothing for my main, which is Wraith. If you guys are watching me on Twitch, you know I am like a level 20, 21, have opened a ton of Apex Legends packs, and have not gotten like anything. And no skins, no quips, nothing. No banner stats, nothing for Wraith outside of the stuff that I've unlocked through just playing as her. The struggle is real, guys. And then the final bit of news regarding Apex Legends says that data miners reportedly discover files for a survival mode, featuring a spectator and commentator NPCs who will cheer players on, a replay system, and 2 new legends, who are Octane, who appears to have some sort of a stim injection kind of ability. Wonder if that will like make them faster, maybe more accurate. It'll be interesting to see. Like maybe he's a support type character. And the other one is Watson, who can deploy what is called in the files a Tesla trap. And this information was via at Real Apex Legends at Real Apex Leaks on Twitter. So I'm interested to hear more about the survival mode. I'm guessing it's kind of a PvE kind of mode, kind of like what Fortnite did with the PvE kind of thing, but it looks like maybe it's a survival mode where you're in an arena and maybe you're fighting off against enemies in a team, and you've got NPCs surrounding the arena who will like cheer you on and whatnot. Replay system for kills sounds awesome. And then of course, always good to hear about new legends that they're already brewing those up. Now let's get into the gaming quick hits. First bit is regarding cross-platform. Rocket League, which has had cross-platform gameplay for players for a little over a month now, have announced that they have also been able to introduce now cross-platform parties. So you used to be able to play games across platforms with people, but now you can actually party and group up with people across platforms, and that's via the Rocket League website. Overwatch's new Paris map that we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago, it is now officially available for all players. That was via the Overwatch site. That was via the fact that just go into the Overwatch game, you'll find the map there. Overwatch also has teased a new hero. This is via their Overwatch website, and latest promotional material, which includes like a weird video and like this letter that was written on. It looks like the new hero might be this former Talon agent known as Jean-Baptiste Augustin, who is a medic that apparently, reportedly, according to the letter, is also a good shot. The U.S. Copyright Office, by the way, in Fortnite news, has denied Alfonso Ribeiro's claim to the Carlton dance, his application, they stated that it was like a just a brief sequence, and that will seriously hurt the strength of his and legitimacy of his lawsuit against Epic Games. Now he doesn't have the copyright, and we don't know who owns the copyright. It's believed that if you want to take it back to its source, to when it was first made popular, technically NBC owns the rights because The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air aired on NBC. That information was provided via Eric Gardner of The Hollywood Reporter. So good news for Fortnite. Maybe that'll keep people from trying to sue them for just putting dances in games. And also regarding Fortnite, they are looking into potentially introducing a respawn mechanic. No other details about that. You know, they obviously didn't mention Apex Legends. They might have been thinking about this before Apex Legends. Apex Legends only came out 2 days ago, but this was via a Fortnite dev, RZE Live, as part of a AMA that Fortnite was doing with RZE Live and 2 other developers on Reddit. And then the final bit of news, which involves Fortnite and Epic Games, is that there's a new child exploitation and pedophile controversy going on YouTube, which is these child exploiters and these pedophiles are hiding apparently like inappropriate pedophilic content or how to access that in videos, and are sharing information to one another. Apparently with a new account, you can find it within 5-10 minutes. And it's a huge controversy going on with YouTube. And because of that controversy, Epic Games found out that ads for Fortnite have been showing up as pre-roll ads for these types of videos. So they've decided to pull ads for Fortnite on the platform. And they've also joined Disney, Nestle, and AT&T in pulling this their advertisements until YouTube gets their crap together and can crack down on it. It seems like almost every year YouTube is involved in some sort of controversy regarding ads, which I mean, it's child exploitation, so I don't think this will hurt legitimate YouTube creators this time. So hopefully YouTube can get things together and crack down on this sometime soon. And good on, I will say for this instance, because in previous instances, sometimes you could maybe say that like with maybe like cursing and like stuff like that, advertisers not wanting that kind of stuff, that could be iffy, but I mean, they're entitled to, it's a dicey subject, but this one, open and shut, definitely get your ads off of that. And good on Epic, Disney, Nestle, and AT&T for taking a stand on this and pulling their ads from YouTube until YouTube can crack down on this situation. And that information was via Julia Alexander of The Verge. Extra information was provided via VG247 on Disney, Nestle, and AT&T. The initial report on Epic Games was provided by Julia Alexander on The Verge. And with that said, episode 80 of the Super Grab Bros podcast is coming to an end, everybody. So it didn't take too long in gaming, but had some interesting stories to discuss and some new info on Anthem. But guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been episode 8 of the Super Grab Bros podcast. Remember, you can watch this podcast live or in VOD form on Twitch at twitch.tv/L_Murpho. And if you watch it live, you can get involved in the discussion and in these heated discussions and debates and chat, just like footballers, Smoob, Adam Ritt, Hugo, and Big Stupid have all this episode. You can also watch this back on VOD form on YouTube at youtube.com/ElMurphoReal. These go up 24 hours after every podcast airs on Twitch because of limitations on the affiliate program with Twitch. So just search, look for Super Grab Bros, head to that place, youtube.com/ElMurphoReal. It's the El Murpho channel to watch it on YouTube. Do not forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, all that. If you have any takes that you want to provide in the comments, be sure to put it in there. I like to look at the comments, and I will give you a heart or a thumbs up. If I feel like you have a really engaging comment, I will answer back. We will answer back. You can also listen to the audio version of Super Grapple Bros on pretty much every platform possible. We are syndicated across platforms. We are on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. You can go ahead and find us there. Just search for Super Grapple Bros and you'll be able to find it. So that way, if you want to listen to us talk on your way into work or wherever you go in your travels, you can do so by searching Super Grapple Bros on your favorite podcasting platform. Do not forget also, if you want to provide any feedback or if you want to get involved in the viewer predictions, you can sign up on the Discord server. And speaking of the viewer predictions, I want to give out the predictions results, which I did not do. And I apologize earlier for not doing that. The predictions results were that D-Murph won and retained his predictions championship with 5 correct picks. I want to say congrats to Mets fan. Mets fan actually beat me in predictions with 4 correct predictions from the show. And I want to give a shout out also to Big Stupid. Big Stupid tied me with 3 correct predictions from the show. Again, you can go on to Discord. You can, if you want to get involved in the viewer predictions for every single pay-per-view event and potentially get yourself shouted out in the review episodes, just sign up to the Discord server. The link is on the channel page. It is below on Twitter. It is, on Twitch. You can get it in the show notes on the audio version, and it's also in the video description on YouTube. Just click the link there. You can join the Discord server, and you can get involved in 2 Super Grapple Bros dedicated channels within the server. One is viewer predictions, where you can put your picks in for who you think is going to win for every single pay-per-view. And then the other one is also questions, feedback, concerns, all that stuff. You have any feedback at all regarding Super Grapple Bros, comments, concerns, feedback, you have trivia you want us to answer, you can feed it to us through the Super Grapple Bros questions and feedback channel on the Discord server as well. Do not forget also, this stream, as well as all of my streams in February, there's only about 4 days left, so there's only going to be a couple more streams left. I've been dedicating this entire month of February to Extra Life, trying to raise $1,000 on the year for Extra Life 2019. I did a couple of charity live streams, 12-hour charity live streams this past week, that have raised $380 so far. You can find the link to that as well in the show notes, video description. And Big Stupid also dropped it into the chat on Twitch. It is also available to be clicked on the channel page on Twitch as well. Head over, donate. Money's going to the Maria Ferrari Children's Hospital of Westchester Medical Center of Valhalla, New York, and Westchester County, New York. All going to good kids, going to a good cause. So if you have it in your heart to dedicate some time to donate some money, appreciate it. You can even look into the hospital and where all the money is going from my campaign page if you click the link. You can also leave feedback if Discord isn't your thing by emailing us at supergrapplebros@gmail.com. And if you want to know when we're going to go live, we always put out when we're going to go live via Discord and on Twitch. So the moment we go live, we send out a tweet, we announce it in Discord, but we also let people know in Discord, when about the show is going to happen, either on a Saturday or if it's been delayed. So that's another reason to get involved in Discord, but also on Twitter. Give us a follow on Twitter. I'm at L_Murpho. D-Murph is at D-Murph_42. You can find announcements and just other random tweets of things that are crossing our minds, whether that's gaming, whether that's sports, whether that's wrestling. I tweeted about the Matt Zuccarello trade in the NHL yesterday. I tweet about wrestling stuff. I tweet about all different kinds of things, so be sure to check us out there. And with that, that's all the housekeeping and call to actions for the end of the episode. If you guys stuck around for all of it, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And also, Smoob, thank you so much for the comment on saying that you think we deserve a bigger audience, that we're doing a great job. I really appreciate it. Those comments mean the world to us. It's what allows us to keep doing the show, so thank you so much for that. Hopefully, you can spread the word and let more people know about the show. It'd be great to get more people involved in the conversation. And before I leave you guys today, we will end the episode with the Kayfabe News headline of the episode. And this episode's headline from Kayfabe News is, McMahon, as in Vince McMahon, admits that he still has, quote, no idea who Mr. America was. Will forever be one of the biggest mysteries of wrestling. That great, gracious patriot, Mr. America. Thank you all. Peace, deuce, the deucey deuce. Have a good one. We'll catch y'all later. Bye-bye now. Bye. 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 Bye.
Shut up and sit down.